Welcome. In this video, if Zbcn is listed on Binance, what will the price do? We will analyze it. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and please watch to the end you understand.
But first of all, the price.
The idea that the price must first break such a downtrend is one of the most critical points in technical analysis. Because when an asset has been in a long-term downtrend, it shows that investor psychology and market dynamics have been shaped negatively. A downtrend progresses by producing lower highs and lower lows each time, which indicates that sellers are consistently dominant and buyers remain weak. However, this structure cannot last forever because markets always operate within a cyclical balance. At some point, the downtrend either slows down or breaks entirely. This breaking point can mark the beginning of a new price rally. When the trend breaks, the power of the sellers weakens, the confidence of the buyers increases, and this psychological shift strongly reflects in price movements. The breaking of a downtrend is not just the crossing of a technical line, but also a sign of changing confidence in the market. Investors, having seen prices continuously suppressed for a long time, often delay new buying decisions, but when the price one day breaks above the trend line, the situation reverses. The question, is the decline finally over, arises, and many investors want to act on that possibility. Especially those who closely follow technical analysis see this breakout as confirmation, and trading volumes increase significantly. Rising volume supports the idea that the breakout is not a false move, but a real change in direction. At this stage, the price can begin to move upward more quickly and aggressively, marking the start of a rally. Another important factor triggered by a trend break is stop-loss levels. Investors who have been trading within the downtrend and holding short positions trigger their stop-loss orders when the trend breaks. This adds new buying pressure to the market because when short positions are closed, buy orders are automatically activated. Thus, the breakout not only brings in new buyers but also forces sellers to close their positions. This chain reaction accelerates price momentum even more. In other words, the breaking of a downtrend is not just a technical signal, but also a mechanical turning point for the market. What matters here is where and how the breakout occurs. If the price breaks the downtrend line with a strong candle supported by high volume, the reliability of this move is much higher. Conversely, breakouts that occur with low volume and weak candles often end up as false exits, with the price falling back into the trend. This is why investors should always seek confirmation after a breakout. Confirmation usually comes when the price retests the broken trend line. If, during this test, the price gathers strength and turns back up without dropping below the line, that's when the breakout can truly be considered valid and the rally confirmed. The beginning of a rally is directly tied to the market's change in direction. Exiting a downtrend signals that sellers' pressure has ended and buyers have taken control. At this point, new buyers entering the market, especially those aiming to catch trend reversals, accelerate the upward momentum. This momentum quickly creates a domino effect because as prices rise, investors waiting on the sidelines rush to buy so as not to miss the move. This psychological chain reaction is what drives the rally, meaning prices climb not only through technicals, but also through psychology and emotion. In such cases, tools like Fibonacci levels, past resistance zones, and moving averages are used to determine potential targets. But the most important factor is the wave of confidence that forms after the trend break. By nature, the faster prices rise, the more investors want to buy, which strengthens the rally. This is why rallies after a trend break are often sharp, fast, and high in volume. In the aftermath of a breakout, buyers hold the stronger position as the selling pressure that had built up during the downtrend begins to fade. Sellers lose motivation while buyers gain appetite, pushing prices higher. Investors who can spot and act on these trend reversals early often secure significant profits, as the move triggered by a breakout is rarely just a short-term spike, but often the start of a medium or long-term uptrend. Of course, caution is always needed because markets never move in a straight line. After a breakout, the price may pull back or consolidate at times. What matters most is that these corrections do not push the price back into the downtrend and that the upward structure remains intact. As long as this condition is met, the rally's continuity becomes more reliable. Investors should remain patient here and avoid being shaken by short-term fluctuations, keeping their focus on the bigger picture. In conclusion, the idea that the price must first break the downtrend and that this breakout would spark a rally is deeply grounded in technical analysis. As long as the downtrend remains intact, it is difficult to talk about a lasting upward move since sellers' pressure continues. But once the breakout happens, not only do the lines on the chart shift, but market psychology itself transforms. This psychological reversal is the key reason why prices often launch into strong and rapid rallies. That is why trend breakouts are golden opportunities for investors. But we cannot make decisions based only on trends, so let's take a look at other metrics as well. Stay tuned.
When a bullish crossover occurs in the MACD indicator, it generally signals a strong buy opportunity in terms of market structure. This indicates that a momentum shift has begun, selling pressure is easing, and buyers are increasingly taking control. Specifically, when the MACD line crosses above the signal line from below, it shows that the bullish trend is gaining strength. In technical analysis, this crossover is considered the beginning of an attack because many traders tend to enter buy positions at this point. The reason is that market psychology starts to shift and investor confidence begins to rise again. When traders see this crossover, they often open positions with the expectation that the trend will continue upward. As a result, trading volume may increase. Rising volume supports the strength of the crossover and helps solidify the base for bullish moves. At this stage, alignment between the price chart and the MACD is also very important. If the price is rising while the MACD is also gaining upward momentum, this confirms the bullish movement. Especially in an asset that has been in a downtrend for a long time, a bullish crossover in the MACD is considered a strong signal that the trend has broken. After a bullish crossover in the MACD, markets often begin to gain momentum. This momentum attracts short-term traders as well, causing prices to move faster. Price action after the crossover usually targets certain resistance levels. If these resistances are broken, the bullish move becomes much stronger and the real attack begins at that point. This is one of the most critical moments for traders. Because while the crossover itself is a signal, the actual breakout occurs when resistance levels are surpassed. For this reason, a bullish crossover in the MACD shows that the market has entered a preparation phase for a move, while the breakout of resistance marks the true start of that move. Therefore, the expression "the attack begins" does not just mean that the price is rising, it also refers to a phase where investor interest intensifies, buyers enter the market strongly, and the trend starts to reverse. By nature, the MACD indicator measures market momentum. The MACD line is derived from the difference between two exponential moving averages, while the signal line is a smoothed version of that difference. Thus, a crossover means the short-term average has risen above the long-term average. This shows that short-term price movements are starting to dominate the long-term trend, signaling a potential trend change. In other words, this technical structure reflects a shift in market dynamics in favor of investors. A bullish crossover is considered a trigger signal in many algorithmic systems and manual strategies. Therefore, not only retail traders, but also institutional investors and algorithms pay attention to this signal, which further strengthens the price momentum. Another key point is that the MACD doesn't just signal at the moment of the crossover, but also shows how strong the price becomes afterward. If the MACD line continues expanding upward after the crossover, it indicates increasing momentum and a high probability of a sustainable uptrend. Thus, "the attack begins" refers not only to a sudden spike, but also to the start of a broader bullish trend. At this stage, trader strategies come into play. Some open positions at the crossover itself, while others wait for the first pullback afterward for a safer entry. In either case, the upward shift in market direction makes the overall outlook positive. The bullish MACD crossover is also closely tied to market psychology. Since many traders recognize this signal, they often act simultaneously. This can cause sharp price increases. At this point, the word attack is very fitting, as the rapid and strong upward movement feels like an offensive push. This move often signals a major trend reversal in the market. If the crossover occurs at a strong support level, it becomes even more meaningful, as the buying pressure from support combines with the MACD signal to create a much stronger move. Similarly, if the crossover occurs near an important resistance level, the signal gains extra weight. Once resistance is broken, the MACD confirmation can ignite an even faster bullish rally. For these attacks to be sustainable, volume and momentum support are essential. If investor interest is high, the price may enter a much longer-lasting uptrend.
If the possibility of Zbcn coin being listed on Binance, one of the world's largest and most liquid cryptocurrency exchanges, is put on the table, analyzing the potential price impact through Elliott wave theory paints an extremely exciting picture. That's because Binance listings, as seen in hundreds of altcoin examples in the past, serve not only as massive catalysts for increased trading volume and investor interest, but also as gateways to global accessibility. Many investors know well that projects listed on Binance suddenly come under the radar of millions of investors worldwide, often triggering huge price surges in a short period of time. In this context, if Zbcn experiences such a listing, combined with existing technical structures, it could signal the beginning of a powerful bullish momentum. Elliott wave theory is one of the most important technical analysis approaches, explaining market moves through repeating wave patterns shaped by human psychology and crowd behavior. According to this theory, price movements follow a 5-wave impulse structure and a 3-wave corrective structure. Looking at Zbcn, if a Binance listing occurs, this could trigger the transition from the completion of the second wave into the third wave. In Elliott theory, the third wave is known as the strongest and longest wave. This is because, at this stage, investor interest significantly grows and market psychology is largely built on optimism and confidence. The third wave typically contains the steepest and largest price increases. Therefore, if Zbcn enters the third wave with such a listing, the price could initiate not just a small rise, but a much broader rally. The projected targets, namely 2.272 and 3.272 minimum levels, are also supported by Fibonacci projections. After the second wave is completed, Fibonacci extension levels for the third wave often show price climbing toward ratios like 1.618, 2.272, or even 3.272. If Zbcn has already completed its second wave and moved into the third, then the minimum 2.272 level can be expected. This translates to nearly a 350% rise from current levels. In the crypto market, it is not at all unusual for a Binance listing to push prices towards such ratios. In the past, many altcoins have experienced gains of 200 to 500% within just hours or days of being listed on Binance. This makes discussing such a surge for Zbcn a very reasonable scenario. It's also important to consider the psychological dimension of the third wave. During the first wave, most investors remain skeptical despite rising prices. In the second wave correction, skepticism increases, and many may even believe the coin has failed. However, once the third wave begins, the narrative changes completely. A global-scale event like a Binance listing boosts investor confidence to its peak and sparks intense FOMO, fear of missing out. At this point, not only small investors, but also whales, institutional players, and fast-moving traders step in. As a result, the price not only moves toward technical targets, but also sees record-breaking trading volume. This level of activity fuels the third wave to grow even stronger and faster. In Elliott theory, the third wave is usually 1.618 times the length of the first wave, but sometimes it expands to 2.272 or even 3.272. This explains why the projected targets for Zbcn are so logical. Especially with a catalyst like Binance entering the picture, the third wave may not just reach the minimum 2.272 level, but extend toward the higher 3.272 target as well. If the price does reach these levels, that would mean roughly a 350% increase. While that may sound massive, considering the impact Binance listings have had in the past, it's a highly realistic possibility. Reaching these targets could also fundamentally shift the market perception of Zbcn. Currently, Zbcn has relatively limited recognition, but a Binance listing would suddenly introduce it to millions of users and make it tradable worldwide. This not only enhances the project's credibility, but also broadens its investor base. For investors, trust and liquidity are paramount. Being listed on an exchange like Binance provides liquidity and ease of trading, while also creating the perception that this project is reliable, otherwise Binance wouldn't have listed it. Even this psychological effect alone could strengthen the third wave. The massive surge that could occur with the transition into the third wave would open the door not only for short-term gains, but also for a medium-term bull market trend. A 350% increase would transform Zbcn in the eyes of investors from an ordinary altcoin into one of the future's potential major projects. In such cases, the price rally becomes a self-sustaining cycle. As the price rises, new investors enter, and as new investors enter, the price rises even further, accelerating the achievement of third-wave targets.
Of course, a catalyst like Binance listing is crucial for the third wave to be this strong. If it happens, Zbcn investors could witness not just a technically driven movement, but a surge amplified by market psychology and global investor interest. In this scenario, reaching the minimum 2.272 level becomes almost inevitable, while a stronger push toward 3.272 also remains highly possible. That would offer investors an extraordinary profit potential of around 350%. In conclusion, Zbcn being listed on Binance is far more than just another exchange announcement. It could serve as the key catalyst to propel the price into its third wave. The principles of Elliott wave theory combined with such a listing suggest that the price could climb strongly toward the 2.272 and 3.272 targets. Such a move would represent roughly a 350% gain, potentially making Zbcn one of the most talked about projects in the crypto space. The third wave triggered by a Binance listing could therefore become not just a technical move, but a historic rally, reshaping investor outlook on Zbcn's future.
Yes, friends, I hope you liked the video. If you subscribe to my channel and like the video, more videos will be coming. Be careful in your investments, analyze the risks correctly, and always take strategic steps. I will be with you with different analyses, investment opportunities, and technical information in my videos. I wish you all a lot of profit. See you soon.